Welcome to the Boring AI Show, the podcast for people who want to understand AI beyond the headlines. We talk about the useful, messy, funny, and very human side of bringing artificial intelligence into the real world. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Tally.
So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Boring AI Show. It's me, Tim, and joined, as always, by Tally. Hello, Tally.
Hello, Tim.
And it's been quite a week for the world of AI. Lots going on. Do you have anything you'd like to start with, Tally, before we get into our topic of the day, which is going to be, in the past two episodes, we've kind of mentioned this event we were doing with Towson University. Today, we're going to dig into that. The event was last week, 2 weeks ago. Like, it was, my calendar mind is blurry here. But we're going to be digging in to talk about the event. It was on May 6th, and we're recording today on what, May 14th, 15th? 19th? Wow. Okay.
The days are going by.
Yes. So, Tally, where do you want to start today, other than my lack of calendaring?
Yeah, so like you said, there's a lot going on in the news. And I actually wanted to just call out something which I think will tie into our discussion later. But one of our team members here, Nicholas, we have a AI Teams channel, an AI Nerds kind of like social channel for Mind Over Machines for us to just talk about anything that's happening AI and keep us all in the loop. And last week he actually shared, and I really liked this article, around a partnership between Gates Foundation and Anthropic, in which they're aiming to build AI tools, in global health, education, and agriculture, really trying to focus on, AI is hitting certain populations and making sure that the populations that maybe it's not initially hitting still get some of the benefits as well. And one of the pieces I particularly liked about this article was the focus on building with these populations and not for a population. I think so often we move forward and say, this team needs this tool. Let's, the IT department will get that in place, but having a co-creation process with the actual end users is huge to make sure that the end outcome actually benefits the people you're building it for. So I just wanted to call that out. I really liked that that focus on the build with, not for.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And there's a saying in the autism community that I've encountered, and I don't know if that's where it originated or whatever, but that's where I encountered it. It was nothing for us without us, and the idea of like don't come to help unless we've been involved, because you might not be helping. And
Yes.
It very, very interesting, and yes, spot on with. We'll be talking about that as we talk about the Towson event. That was a very key topic. So
Absolutely.
Interesting. I haven't read that article yet, so I look forward to digging into it because I know some of our friends in the nonprofit space are really interested in what some of these foundations like the Gates Foundation are doing with AI. So good find.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What about you, Tim? Anything going on that you're keeping an eye on in the news right now?
There is so much. So, we just had the Musk versus Altman, court case that occurred. Of course, that's been dominating news. We also had tons of new features that are coming out and across all these different AI platforms. But the thing that I literally came from to come to this call was Miro, which is an intelligent whiteboarding platform. They're having their Canvas conference today. Today's the keynote, and they were demoing all kinds of new features that were very interesting. And the big focus is creating much more of a collaborative workspace for both people and AI tools to work together in the same workspace. And so this put me very much in mind of Microsoft talking about AI work and collaboration as the phrase that they were using is co-players, as a cooperative effort, and framing it in a kind of a gaming context, which I thought was very interesting. But yeah, like I'm really excited to go try out some of these new features from Miro Canvas and see what we get. So as big fans of
Very
Mirror
cool.
we are.
Yeah,
So
no, I got to jump in there as well and play around. Very cool. Well, thank you for
yeah.
sharing.
Yeah. So, outside of that, there is so much constantly happening
Yeah.
in the news around AI. I just want to reemphasize to everybody, you don't have to try to keep up with everything. Like, no, focusing on the tools that matter to you, um, and your industries that matter to you. Pay attention there. You don't have to cover everything. It's part of why we're here. So,
Exactly. And if there's certain areas in the news that you'd like to hear more about, definitely leave a comment and we can try to cover that in one of the episodes as well.
yeah, absolutely. All
All right.
right.
Well, Tim, do you want to share a little bit about the Towson event and give some background before we jump into some of the topics we want to discuss today?
Yes. So I've written about this on LinkedIn, published an article around kind of the history of what happened, to get us to the event. And the short version is I have a liberal arts background. Many of us at Mind Over Machines have liberal arts backgrounds. And our focus has always been on like helping people out and really focusing on the people. And, I think a lot of that has to do with how many of us came from the liberal arts. And so a few years back, there is a new dean for Towson University's College of Liberal Arts who joined. And I got connected to him through our friends at Towson University to help with the business advisory council he was setting up, where business members could work with the College of Liberal Arts to talk about like what's important for careers, what's happening out in the world, and how does that translate into what students are learning to optimize, the workforce, basically. And in this discussion, I started, kind of talking about how AI should be a liberal arts exercise more so than it should be a computer science exercise. That thinking was really, for me, very obvious at the time. But as I started exploring it more and more, it was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of people who think this. There's a lot of people who are looking at liberal arts skills and humanities skills as, killer skills for this world of AI. So in working with the new dean, his name's Chris Chulos, we started shaping up this concept of an AI challenge that was specifically targeted to liberal arts students around AI governance. So there's all kinds of technical AI challenges out there that, build cool AI tools and build, neat stuff with AI. We focused on governance and building, responsible AI policies and procedures. And how do you think about AI from that responsibility lens? So that took a while. I think we worked on it for like 2-ish years, if I remember correctly, to kind of bring this to reality. And in January of this year, 2026, we had the 4 groups of students start the challenge and working through building out a governance program on how to keep humans in the loop and on the loop for AI to AI communication. And then their presentation was on May 6th. So there was a lot that happened in between. Most of it logistics stuff that is not really interesting for the podcast, unless it was a podcast about the logistics of events, which it's not. It's about boring AI. So I'd say we can stop there from a background and dive into, the event and kind of what happened from there.
Perfect. Let's do it. No, and I love that. And I love also, integrating, like you mentioned, Tim, the liberal arts and human centric. I think it's become more, not just with technology, but with AI specifically, more and more critical. And so I love that that's the lens through which a lot of these students, it sounds like there was a wide, and correct me if I'm wrong, background, not just technical, but also, political science. And, there's a lot of other different backgrounds in terms of the students who attended this. So we got to see, some folks who had that kind of input for a couple of these projects.
Yeah. And so we had students from all kinds of liberal arts disciplines. We had international studies, we had political science, we had history, we had psychology, we had, I believe we had like an environmental science person, if I remember correctly. So we had all kinds of people joining, with this event, and it showed through their presentations. Like you could see where this team had a special focus on topic one or a different focal point than other teams. So pretty interesting stuff.
Very cool. And I know we also had another Mind of Machines person on site who was actually able to interview some both students and employees at the event around a specific question. So we'll get to that in a moment. But before we get to that, I guess, Tim, so I wasn't able to join. Was there a certain group or topic that really stood out to you that you're still kind of mulling over following the event?
It was interesting to me the different approaches each team took. And so we had one team who was very focused on ethical, and the definition of ethics around AI. What is an ethical implementation, and how do you define that? How do you ensure that's what's occurring? And I thought that was really an interesting approach, kind of starting with that lens and really focusing on that lens of what is ethical for the AI to do by itself? What is the ethical for the humans to be involved? What is the oversight mechanisms that we need to have from an ethical perspective? And it was very interesting from a if you take the business aspect out of what was trying to be done and the optimization, and there was a lot of human interaction in their model, which again is very good. And this is part of the exercise. How much human is enough human, or too much human, or not enough human? And so it was very very good to see their approach with, okay, we define what is ethical, and we start from there. Another team approached it from what you were talking about earlier with the Gates Foundation and Anthropic of, okay, well, who are the populations being impacted, and how are they part of the governance strategy? And so their model was very much aligned to the risk model from the NIST, organization, and the risk management framework from NIST. And so it was very, very much aligned to, measure, map, maintain all the pieces of NIST. But their real focus around, we need to have the population being impacted has to have a seat at the table, and a controlling seat at the table for the governance program. I thought that was very interesting and unique. I haven't encountered that too much out in the wild. The third group, yeah, it was very cool. So the first group I mentioned, that was team one. The group I just mentioned was team three. We'll come back to team two in a moment. And then team four was very much focused on a stage gate process, and how each stage gate, there was a question of, okay, does a human need to be involved here or not because of the risk profile of the medication? Just we were talking about biotech type stuff, and and the regulatory aspects. Does a human need to be involved in this step or not? And then how is a human monitoring the stage gate process? What was really interesting with them and really pushed it over the top is they had a lot of case study focus here's how it'll work with this medication. Here's how it would have worked with this medication, and being able to show the impacts of how it would have been avoided. So really good stuff there. And then finally, coming back to team two, team two had built a presentation, but actually pivoted from their presentation to use their time to basically say that they didn't agree with AI doing this kind of work or any kind of work, and that AI really was a negative factor in society, and had a lot of perspective they wanted to share around, is the world actually a better place with these tools in it? And it was interesting, and was delivered very passionately. And so veered off of the topic that we were looking for in the competition. But hey, it was a liberal arts competition. We kind of knew to expect the unexpected. So I'll pause there as I just shared a whole bunch. So.
No, you did. And what I love to hear, and it is interesting hearing one group veering off, but I think that is, I think there is some, I don't know if the word is power or there's always energy, that's, I think, generated, especially from new grads who are the front line in terms of learning the latest. as it relates to, in this case, this new technology. And so, hopefully there's ways that folks can, beyond just, describing maybe how a certain area might not be a great area for AI, like really breaking that down. And I think, that's something we try to do here is not every solution maybe should have AI in it, but explaining maybe why that is and what areas of a process should involve AI, I think is really critical. So yeah, it's very cool. And it's very cool to see, I know for a while, especially when we were doing season 1 of this podcast, there were some education institutes that were reaching out to us asking, should AI be used in the classroom? And if so, how? And what does that look like? And so not only seeing AI being used in these, in the classroom, but also, thinking through how to actually and when to actually use AI. So seeing that from the student perspective, I just think is really cool and exciting from my perspective.
Yeah, I really appreciated that that the students all approached the problem set from a different angle. I appreciated that there was passion in all of the presentations, and that there was a real focus on what is the human value being brought to the work, and how do we make sure people understand that? And that's something you and I talk to clients about all the time. Like, what is the human value being brought to this work? And the answer rarely is nothing. Like, there's rarely no human value being brought to work. And so as you think about that AI piece, it's like, well, that shouldn't be replacing your human value. That should be amplifying it. And so how do you amplify it? Whether it's reallocation of time of like, well, now I'm focused more on these customer service activities that, grow relationships, or I'm focused on analysis from a different perspective of the data that's being produced. There's a lot of human value that I think a lot of people just get so used to. And we heard this in Team Two's argument that work is just, you just do your work, and you just do it. Like, it's not necessarily what you want to do, you just do it. And I think that's really going to be a significant disservice for people who think that way going into the future with AI. Because if you can't articulate the value that you're bringing to the work, it's going to be very challenging. It's going to be a very difficult conversation to have with leadership to say, here's why people should be doing that work, if nobody knows why people should be doing that work. So what is the value of people doing that work? And it could be just because people need work. There's value to people having work. But again, this is part of the challenge of, but does that make economic sense? We do have an economy. It's a real part of our society. And making sure that people have the skills to grow into that, changing economy is super, super critical.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, I think that ties in nicely to some of the themes that I think we heard in the interview discussions. Before we pivot, Tim, because I do want to actually touch on some of the themes we heard in those discussions, and I think that'll actually tie back to some more of the, what we heard from the students. Is there anything else you want to add about the event overall?
Yeah, it was a wonderful event. Like, I was very hopeful we'd have a great event, being the first time we ever tried something like this. And with Towson University, we're excellent partners, great leaders to make this actually work with the student population. Because we had ideas, and we had, here's how this could work. And then, working with like team members like Dr. Emily Bailey, and she's like, oh, that's great, Tim, but the students are going to need to hear it like this, or, like they're going to need to experience it like that. Because again, know your audience, and make sure that you're engaging your audience, and having the right people to say, this is what matters to this audience, is super, super critical, tying back to the Gates Foundation topic. So the event was awesome. We had it at the Towson University Towson Startup, which is a beautiful facility. The team there is awesome. They did a great job. We had some news coverage and media coverage, which was cool. And this, I think, was the first time I was interviewed on the news. And so I was thankful for our tools like virtual speech to help with media training. So I didn't make a complete fool out of myself. But it was a great event, and I look forward to us doing it again next year. Um, yeah, I couldn't be happier with it.
Love that. Tim, I think, as you know, this month, for whatever reason, just seems to be the month of weddings for me. And I was at a
Right.
wedding this past weekend, and I was talking to somebody about AI, and they just kept saying, I just hope, I'm not in this field. I just hope smart people are really thinking about AI and how to use it. And it's these events that I think show that there are people out there that really deeply care about how to implement these tools and implementing it in a way that feels, ethical, however that's defined, or in ways that feels, really valuable for the end users. And so, yeah, it's just really exciting for me to hear that these events, generate so much energy, especially from the students.
All right. So, hey, everybody, we're back actually because there was an error in our recording and my recording dropped. So, we had the next part of this conversation. We've actually done this twice now. And so, remember in season 2, episode 1, when I said, hey, we have all new tools and all new software. Well, it doesn't always work for us. So, we are very familiar with the live demos and breaking of things. So, Tally, why don't you pick us up where we left off in yesterday's conversation?
Let's do it. And yes, you're with us real time as we're resolving some of these issues. So hopefully this is fun for the audience to hear a second version of this. Maybe we'll be better this time.
And maybe there's I don't know, we don't have my side of the conversation, but I think you had some great quotes yesterday that we can surface and share there as bits. So, Nicholas, don't throw away anything from the rest of the recording yesterday. Hey man, new tools, and we didn't. We thought maybe we lost my recording, but we weren't sure, and then it was confirmed at the end of the meeting. So, all right. So, what are we talking about, Tally?
All right. So, as Tim mentioned, we were at the Towson event, I believe it was last week, and one of our team members, one of our minds, Brent, here at Mind Over Machines, was kind enough to take a recorder along with him and record some of the students and faculty while at this event, asking them all the same question. That question was, what advice would you give to business professionals just starting to use AI? And so we'll play that snippet here of everybody's response to that question of, if you're brand new to AI and you're in the business world, what advice would you have? So let's take a listen.
So remember the human aspect of the AI use, and to make sure that if there are any ethical or other contextual things that they need to consider, that they do that, even if they're relying on the tool.
I think I would say remember that it's a great tool when used properly. It doesn't always give reliable outputs, but if you build the right infrastructure around it, it can lead to a lot of efficiency. And in your business, make sure you're going through the proper governance processes and getting approval, because just about every company wants that these days.
What part of AI are you interested in? Are you interested in hyper-personalization? Are you interested in autonomous vehicles? Are you interested in machine learning? They may have a pre-notion about certain tools. Some people think it's just ChatGPT. Other people think it's just robots.
So I'm actually a junior computer science major here. So I've gotten to see even in our coursework. So we're starting to get new coursework to reflect that. In my opinion, I think it's something to run towards. I might be biased because it is in my field, but I think the implications of it and the endless possibilities really give so many opportunity to a lot of the different fields. And I feel like that fear is kind of holding us back from and further advancements and benefits to all the different fields. So I feel like definitely run towards it, dive in deep and just play around because you'll be surprised with how much you can do and what you can find out.
So I'm a marketing major. I'm studying my marketing intelligence. It's marketing combined with data science. A lot of people in my class, they believe that AI will take their jobs because most of the stuff that we do in marketing, their AI is not capable of doing that. But I personally have an opinion that AI really helped me through my grad school. It did all the mundane tasks that I would rather spend hours on. It made them so much easier and saved me so much time. Even when I'm working professionally somewhere, it would allow me to focus on the good things and the important stuff instead of just focusing on the mundane tasks that I just have, it'll save me a lot of time. So that's what I believe with AI. It's going to help me save a lot more time and let me focus on stuff that really matters.
My name is Samuel Person Smith, and I'm actually not a student. I'm a business analyst. Just keep an open mind in the ways that AI can be used. Keep an open mind, but also keep in mind the ways that it enhances your work streams and your workflows. Look at the pain points that you and your colleagues or your team experience, and how can you remove those pain points with AI. Don't just look at it as a way to cut people. I think people are really a big part of what makes a workplace. But at the same time, AI is an incredible tool for helping boost their work satisfaction, their productivity, and overall just make work a lot more fun.
All right. Tim, what did you think about those responses?
Yeah, again, we're at an event called AI for Humanity. And so I don't think it's surprising that we had a lot of emphasis on humans and making sure that the humans don't get lost in the shuffle when it comes to the AI tools and technologies. I thought that was, one, a recurrent message, but two, also that's our wheelhouse. We constantly are talking about that. So it was really cool to hear people coming at AI from that perspective. So, there was a couple other themes, but, what were your thoughts, Tally?
No, I couldn't agree more. I think the human first aspect, I think one of the later respondents mentioned, especially when implementing this in the business world, excuse me, making sure that it's not an AI versus human type of thing. Like AI is a threat to their jobs or to the industry or whatever that is, but it's actually something that can empower the workforce if they're properly educated on how to use it. And so I think it's reframing that not only benefits obviously your workforce, but your organization at large, because then you're getting humans who have the time and capacity to do the things that are more uniquely human, what you're actually paying them for, and increasing, employee retention, things like that. It's a really critical piece. So I loved that call out. I think that was really important to remember.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's fun because behind the scenes, for everybody who might not know this or not, but one of the things we talk about at Mind Over Machines when we're doing our presentations are like what we shouldn't say. And one of the things that we talk about avoiding, we avoid images of the Terminator, and we talk about keeping verses out of anytime we have humans and machines or humans and AI. We keep the word versus out of that. And it's one of those, it might be overkill at times when we're doing reviews and we're like, oh, wait, this can't say human versus machine. It needs to say humans and machines. And, that focus is really important, because we don't want to create that there's a competitive, I don't know, I would say dichotomy, like that it doesn't have to be competitive. Like it can be a collaborative team sport. And I think one of the things, if I remember correctly, yesterday we were talking about, when we were doing the original recording, was how Microsoft uses language like video game language about people working with AI. And they talk about it as co-players, which I thought was really, really fascinating. And so, that collaboration, where the human's in control, the human needs to be driving the ship, the human needs to be the accountable and responsible party, and the human needs to be the thinker, but they can have a collaborator in the AI. I think that's a really very useful framing for the thinking.
Yeah, I love that. And I love your highlight there, which is really the importance of language. I think actually one of the respondents also mentioned, when this question was asked, well, what about AI are you trying to get into? I think even the term AI is such a large umbrella term, and really specifying, I know a lot of people have the tendency to think about, and I know I do myself, the second you hear AI, you think, a large language model, a ChatGPT or a Copilot or Claude. And that's not all there is. When we say AI, there's so many other opportunities. And so really understanding like, what is the problem you're trying to solve? How are you trying to go about that? Is that in line with your organization's culture and values? And so I think to your point, the being that nitpicky around language really does matter, because it really depends how people, or it impacts how people perceive that technology. So I think that's a great call out.
Yeah. And, that thinking about what kind of AI is the right kind of AI for this problem. If you don't understand the business problem you're trying to solve, it gets very murky, right? What's the right AI to solve this problem? Well, do you need AI at all? I
Exactly.
can't even count how many times we've had business problems that we've worked with clients that no AI was needed. It just was a bad process, that the process needed to be cleaned up. And so, there are things that are like, yeah, AI can help with that. But there's a lot of things that AI shouldn't be the first thing you grab out of your toolbox, when you're trying to solve a problem. And so making sure you understand the problem, that's super critical.
No, I think you summed it up well. And it's funny, I think yesterday you really mentioned quite a bit that you were surprised, that there wasn't more negativity in these responses. And maybe it's a bias based on who we interviewed, but I think that it wasn't so negative because that was the main message. It was, AI can be great if used properly and in the right setting and for the right solution or the right problem. And so I think it's interesting to see the positivity, and maybe it's because they're coming at it from, a lot of these respondents are coming at it from an angle of, as long as you're thinking through the ethics and the larger impact, and if this is a right problem for AI to be the solution, then yeah, it can be great. You just have to use it correctly. Yeah, I think that was
cautious positivity. Yes. So, and I'm also, I don't know. I don't want to say glad we're rehaving this conversation after our discussion with a future guest yesterday, because I do think that also is interesting, not to use the word interesting yet again. Yesterday, one of the things we were talking about is that I said interesting like 500 times. But, how people are thinking about working with their AI partners. And actually this morning, I get the Pump, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger's newsletter about like fitness and health and exercise and all this good stuff. Well, today's topic was around how AI impacts your thinking. And so I'm actually wanted to go and pull up the article on my phone here real quick, because I was like, wow, how timely. But the key thing that it's talking about is like, the negative impact that AI can have on your ability to problem solve and process if you just use AI as an answer machine. And, just give me the answer to this, not teach me how to, process this, or help me think through this problem, or can I see this from a different perspective or an angle? This is really, we talk a lot about using AI as, a team member to challenge your thinking. There's a lot of value there. So, yeah.
I think that's really cool. And again, I don't want to spoil the upcoming episode, but there was a concern, to your point, Tim, around using AI or weighing the answers and outputs of AI more heavily than your own judgment. And we actually talk about this in some of our upskilling courses, especially when we think about, like, for example, machine bias. So, if you're following a GPS, you're more likely to, even if you're like, I know this way's faster, but I'm going to trust the GPS, and you don't really have a reason for it, just because you think that the machine is smarter for whatever reason, we tend to, that's an inherent bias of a lot of people. I think in that same way, people are starting to maybe overly trust AI. And so learning when that balance is of reviewing and, again, having humans fully in the loop and not having majority of the loop be AI if that's not something that's going to be beneficial for the output. And really learning, I think we've talked about this on season 1. There's an exercise that we highly recommend at Mind Over Machines called core competency, and really helping people find what their core skill is that's uniquely theirs, that makes them, the asset to the team. And really making sure you feel confident in whatever that skill is, so that way AI can support it and not, we're not blindly trusting AI, which, could take over some judgment confidence there as well. So I don't know. I think that would be interesting.
And to that same effect, we've encountered team members who are using AI for things that they don't know how to do. And so whether it's writing software or it's building out a roadmap for something that you have no knowledge of, be careful with that, because you're trusting that everything's taken care of. It's got all the right answers, and it doesn't have all the right answers. And you really need to be the person monitoring and making sure that you're getting quality output And the way to do that is somebody's got to review the output, just like a junior team member. Somebody's got to review the output. So who's reviewing it? And if the answer is, well, I'm sure it's right, would you say that about an intern doing the work for you? I'm sure the intern's right. What could go wrong?
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the responses, highlighted this well. It was a student. I think he said, he's been using AI in a lot of his day-to-day to help with more mundane tasks that he can review, whether it's time management and scheduling and things that would typically take him hours to organize. So he can then focus on what he believes is his core competency, his things that, feel really human, the problem solving, the creativity, with that extra time, but he's still reviewing the output. It's just saving him time to then put towards, the innately human tasks. And I really liked that response.
Yeah. And, and again, this is a use case that I use is with live artifacts, with Claude, pulling together a whole bunch of information for me to be able to see my day at a glance. And I've demoed this with Copilot, like how to do this, like being able to see your day at a glance and be able to start distilling, okay, so what should I focus on first based on priority? Because I don't always remember everything that's on my to-do list. And so pulling together the various to-do lists, because anybody who works in a matrixed organization, you have different to-do lists, and sometimes in totally different platforms. It's really nice to have it all pulled together in one place so that you can see everything and start right off on the right thing. So again, it's not that it's giving me all the answers. It's just helping me consolidate the data so that I can be making the best decisions.
Yeah, I love that. It's human, human-centric, I really think is if I had to sum up, the theme of these responses, that's really, I think the main theme here is really making sure, we're putting the human first and thinking about AI in that fashion. Which I think, it sounds like was also the theme of that event as a whole, even with that group too, there are times when maybe AI isn't the best solution, but showing that and really having the data to show, why that would be the case, what are the risks and are the risks worth the benefits, I think it's really important to outline.
Yeah, cannot agree more. Like, and again, thinking through, if the answer is wrong, what's the risk? And there's sometimes where it's very minimal risk, but there are times when it's very significant risk. If you didn't put in the work to it, does it matter? Like, because it wasn't really a heavy lift to do the work. Maybe it doesn't matter. But if it's something that it does matter, very, very significantly matters, if you get this thing wrong, it's going to have significant, ripple effects. You want to make sure you're checking the work, you're having a trusted authority check the work. It's not just, okay, well, this is what the AI said, so it must be right. Let's just throw it out the door. Making sure you're being thoughtful in your reviews. Can't emphasize that enough. So,
agreed. No, I think that's the big theme. No, those are the main points I wanted to hit on from the those recordings there. And I just I want to give a huge shout out to the folks who participated in that questionnaire, because it was really helpful for us to just hear some of your thoughts, and I think it'll be helpful for the audience as well. So I really appreciate those who participated.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Anything else for you to add, Tim?
I want to just give a shout out to our sponsors and some appreciation there. I think with as we're thinking through the event, the event was lots of stuff happening and couldn't have done it without our supportive sponsors. The Towson University College of Liberal Arts team did an amazing job, and really did a great job with the students, really did a great job shaping up the idea to actually be student ready versus just, Tim's crazy idea. So major shout out to the Towson University College of Liberal Arts, as well as the Towson Startup, which is the old Armory building. It's a really cool co-working space. If you're in the Baltimore area, highly recommend you swing by the Towson Startup and check it out. Gorgeous facility, great people, excellent place for the event. Beyond that, we also had great sponsors like Baker Donaldson Law Firm. They were amazing, specifically Alex Moylan. She was a big supporter and big champion of the event. The Maryland Technology Council with Kelly Schultz was supporting the event. Very much appreciated it. APWU and Matthew Grayson, the CIO for APWU, he was a sponsor and great partner in the event, very curious. Brought his team to come and see the students, which was awesome to see all this interest in what the students were doing. And then finally, Coca-Cola, also a sponsor for the event, and very much appreciate their participation. We had a lot of great judges. We had a very good attendance for the event. I can't wait for next year. We got a lot of lessons learned to make it even better.
Awesome. I love it. And I love hearing how involved the community is with students and soon to be new members of the workforce. It's great to see, so many different groups coming together to talk AI. Very cool.
Yeah, and I think the diversity of the groups also says a lot about the Maryland, ecosystem around technology and in interest in growing, a capable workforce. So pretty neat stuff. I'm excited about it. I would really love to see, growth in what we're doing for next year, and for even more people to be involved and solving bigger problems. So it was a great event. Couldn't have asked for a better event. So
love it. Well, yeah, please reach out to, if you have any questions or want to hear more, don't hesitate to reach out. Awesome. Shall we close on AI wins or use cases?
I think we shall. You want to kick us off, Tally?
Sure. So my AI use case for the week, I'm actually working on my world is AI governance and all things AI change management and adoption. And so I'm actually working through a AI governance course online certification program. And I've been using AI to help with creating like mock quizzes and, challenge some of my learnings and force me to kind of articulate my learnings. And since, there's not a discussion environment, since it's virtual, it gives me the space to, I really learn by having to articulate my learnings, and verbalize it. And so being able to write that out, using AI and have AI kind of prompt me with different questions to think further on it has been really helpful. So I just think that's been a really fun use case, using AI as a learning partner.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that use case for AI collaboration. So what is something that you've taken away from your governance course that you think is, relating to this episode, since it was a competition about AI governance? What do you think something everybody should just be keeping in mind?
I think we summed it up and couldn't, repeat it again, but it's really remembering the humans, making sure humans feel empowered. And you're thinking through what questions to ask, and that the end users are thoroughly, trained and upskilled and know the questions to ask as well. But really making sure that there's clear swim lanes between human tasks, AI tasks, and then when there's a process that involves both, being really clear on that human in the loop process for, who owns what task is really, really critical.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I think for me, I can't remember my answer yesterday, but it might have been the same. I am very much loving playing around with these live artifacts from Claude. And they're basically interactive tools that they're HTML pages, so web pages that you can set up within Claude that connect into other applications, so you can have your data sources coming together in one place. Very powerful tool set. So like I was mentioning earlier, I set one up to be my morning briefing of like, okay, what do I got going on today and what needs my attention first? But I've, also experimented with like, okay, well, how do I be tracking metrics with these things? And how can I be turning some of, the qualitative data floating around into quantitative data, and use these live artifacts to be able to track that? And I think I've mentioned this before, but if not, if you're using Claude and you're hearing like live artifacts, what is that? And how would I use that? And you'd be interested in us doing like a webinar on this, post it in the comments. I would love to hear if you have thoughts on this, or you have interest in, what should we dive into? I will say between projects and scheduled tasks and connectors and skills and live artifacts, and just in the world of Claude, there's a lot we could talk about. In the world of ChatGPT, we have all kinds of equivalents over there. So let us know what you'd like us to dig into a little bit more, maybe a more like a technical how-to deep dive, not as a podcast, but maybe as a live webinar. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
I love that. I know that's something I'd be interested in. I think that's a use case we can all relate to. So definitely I'm putting my hand up there as well.
Awesome. All right. Anything else for us today, Tally? Are we wrapping up?
No, I think that sums it up. Feel free to please subscribe, reach out with any topics you guys have in mind. But that should do it for today's episode, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Well, hopefully our next recording will be less dramatic with the technical difficulties. So
yes, fingers crossed.
See everybody next week.
See you guys.
Thanks for joining us on The Boring AI Show. Practical AI minus the hype. Subscribe, share it with someone on their own AI journey, and we'll see you next time.